मम्मी आ जाओ। हाँ, लाइव स्ट्रीम हो रही है। मैं लिपस्टिक ला रही हूँ, बैठ के देखो।
Good afternoon, ma'am. Neelam ma'am, am I audible to you? Neelam ma'am, am I audible to you?
Yes, you are audible.
We'll just start at like 3:30 sharp.
Okay, and for how long I'm supposed to be taking this presentation?
Ma'am, it's a 1.5 hour session. You
Okay,
can have first you can have the session, and then you can have some question and answers.
All right.
If the participant wish to have it.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. All the participants are requested kindly mute themselves. A very good afternoon to all the participants and our resource person for the fifth day of the online 1 week National Faculty Development Program on Academic Research Writing and Best Practices, organized by SSNC Board, Kishan Chand Chelaram Law College, University of Mumbai, and Droid Penal Group. This program is in collaboration with Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, National Mission on Teachers and Teaching, Ministry of Education, Government of India. Today, for the first session, we have with us Dr. Neelam Tyagi Madam. She is the Senior Assistant Professor, Campus Law Center, Faculty of Law, University of Delhi, New Delhi. Ma'am will be speaking on the topic, Interpreting Data of Non-Doctrinal Research. Over to you, ma'am.
So if you can please permit me to share my screen.
Yes, ma'am, you have been permitted to share your screen.
इधर ईयरफोन पड़े होंगे.
The participants are requested kindly mute yourselves.
Yes. I hope I am audible and visible both.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible and visible, as well as your PPT is visible to all of us.
All right. So as you can see, the topic of discussion this afternoon is about the interpretation of the data of non-doctrinal research. So there are 2 points which we are going to consider. First of all, we will discuss that what exactly is meant by the term non-doctrinal research. And secondly, all of you, I mean, you're a mature crowd. I am sure you are aware of the basics of the non-doctrinal research. And after the data is collected, there's a lot of details that we have. To make a sense out of that detail, the data has to be analyzed in a proper manner so that the objective with which you started the research, they can be dealt with, some kind of opinion you can give about the data. So let us begin with the first aspect, that is related to the concept of non-doctrinal research. Before we go to the concept of, it's struck, I am not able to move it. Yeah, it's not going ahead. Yes. Hello, am I audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
I don't know why my PPT is not moving ahead. Yeah, just a second.
It's moving.
So all of us know that the idea of research is to get insight into an existing phenomena. Also, if you look at the concept of research, there are 3 points which we need to remember. It's a subconscious activity. Even if you are going to buy a car, you do some kind of calculation. For buying a car also, you go to 2-3 places and try to find out that what is the best price that is available in the market. It is a continuous process in the sense that every field is regularly indulging into some kind of a research inquiry. It is a systematic inquiry in the sense we try to describe, explain, predict, and control the observed phenomena. So please remember about the research. It is subconscious, it is continuous, and a systematic inquiry. And there could be various objectives of doing the research. From among these objectives, we have to focus on the aspect of social thinking awakening, facilitation, policy making, and allocation of national resources, or probably for taking some business decision. So there could be various objectives for which you are going to indulge in a research inquiry. Now, what is your final objective will determine whether you should be indulging in a doctrinal research or it should be a non-doctrinal research. That is, whether it should be a library confined evaluation of the already existing theory, or you want to look into the practical application of a particular phenomena, then of course you'll be resorting to the non-doctrinal research. So what is your objective will determine whether it is going to be doctrinal research or a non-doctrinal research. These are the certain characteristics which every research should possess. As a researcher, you have to ensure that these 11 characteristics are existing in your research. So it should be based on logical thinking, it should be in-depth analysis, it should be accurate, there should not be any anomalies in your data, and the information that you gather out of the research should be accurate. So this is important because if the data that you collect is right, then of course the interpretation of the data will be a smooth process. So ideally speaking, these are the process of a research. We are going to focus on the fifth aspect of it, not exactly the fifth aspect, the sixth aspect of this research process. So there are few important points which you need to remember before you actually start for doing a research. You should be knowing about the difference between research method, research methodology, research process, and the research design. Not for this purpose, but generally, you should have a clear understanding about the concept of research. Yes, there's a noise in the background. Please check. There is Manika. Manika, please, there's a lot of noise from your side, Manika. Okay. Now, every research is either inductive or deductive. When we say inductive research, it means you start with the theory and then you give a confirmation to it. For example, if you say spider has 8 legs and there is a tarantula, he is also a spider. So what is deductive reasoning? You will say that, a tarantula also have 8 legs. But if it is an inductive reasoning, you have a information, you have a, as far as deductive is concerned, you have a information and you go to the confirmation of the theory. But in case of inductive, you pick up a theory and then you go to confirm it. So you should be knowing about the inductive and deductive aspect of research. Every research has certain purposes to fulfill. It can be exploratory, where it is going to answer a few questions. It can be descriptive, where it is going to expand the current knowledge on a particular issue, or it could be explanatory, where it is going to kind of explain the causal or explanatory, kind of a relationship between two phenomena. So with this background, brief background, so that you can appreciate the concept of non-doctrinal research, let me now proceed to the actual discussion. So if you can see, there is this very important line which brings out the gist of the concept of empirical research. So it is kind of a first-hand study or primary data collection of, and once this data is collected, you are going to analyze the data, you are going to interpret that information, and then you are going to analyze and draw conclusion with respect to the research topic. So every research, if you look at it, there can be two types of research. It can be doctrinal, it can be non-doctrinal. When I say doctrinal research, what does it mean? The peculiar word that we connote to the concept of doctrinal is the armchair research. Naam se kya pata chalta? It's an armchair research. That is, you sit in the chair and then you do the research. So largely it is a library-based research. You go to library, you go to archives, you go to database, you analyze the existing statutory provision, probably a case law, a phenomena. Then, after analyzing all those records which are available, in the library, or the reports that are available in front of you, you try to find out the gap, the problem, and you draw the conclusion. So doctrinal research usually is non-empirical. You sit in the library, it utilizes the secondary sources like books, archives, etc. And It is armchair research, library-based research. And what do? You usually pick up one theory or one doctrine, and then you evaluate it, that whether this doctrine or theory is correct or not. So to understand non-doctrinal, you have to appreciate the doctrinal research. As against the doctrinal research, a non-doctrinal research is more experimental. It is relying on the primary sources. Like, you go to the field, you observe a phenomena, you formulate a questionnaire, you survey, and then you draw some conclusion. So non-doctrinal research tells you about the real world. That is, you know, for example, I am from the law background. So there is a law on domestic violence. But if I want to know how exactly is, the law performing, whether women are being benefited out of this law or not. So what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to go to the market, uh, go to the field, speak to few women. It should be a representative sample, and then I can ask them that, whether, there will be, of course, a questionnaire which will be formulated. There can be an interview that we can take, and then we will kind of ask them that what is their opinion about a particular issue. And once this data is collected, we can, this information which is collected firsthand, use it and come to some kind of a conclusion about the status of the Domestic Violence Act. So if you look at the non-doctrinal research, it is more of an experimental nature. It is empirical. We rely on the primary sources. There are various methods which are used to collect the data. It could be observation, experiment, interview. There can be questionnaire. It is also known as the fact research. Usually we rely on the primary data, which is for the first time collected from the field survey. Then, we usually see the social values of the people, the effect of particular phenomena, etc., by doing the fieldwork. So I hope all of you are clear about the difference between the doctrinal and the non-doctrinal research. The non-doctrinal research is usually, used in criminology for knowing the effectiveness of certain labor laws, to study the concept of juvenile justice, etc. So the logic of having the non-doctrinal research is to bring the practical application, to see how things are functioning, practically, how a particular theory is affecting the life of the people in the real world. So this doctrinal research, it is serving the society. It also, speaking from my field, it is helping the judges to know well the phenomena under study. We are a welfare state. As a welfare state, the government is supposed to undertake so many good policies and programs. For that also the research need to be done. Say for example, abhi ye jo, these laws have come now, which were introducing certain changes in the labor policies, etc., and they were resisted. So we have to see what is the impact of that laws, on the laborers, on the is, etc. So ideally speaking, non-doctrinal research has altogether different way of collecting the data. So to lastly summarize the difference between the two, I can say that non-doctrinal research serves a lot of advantage in the sense that, it is it is based on the utility principle. We see the practical effectiveness of certain phenomena. The data which is collected is more reliable, more authentic, more appealing, and the larger idea is to develop the welfare policies for the people. However, on the negative side, it is always a time consuming process. It consumes a lot of time, energy, funds are required. Then there could be biases, personal biases, etc., and the results could be misleading. Now, speaking from my experience, when I was a PhD research scholar, I did one empirical study, and you won't believe, I completed all the chapters in less than 2 years, but for conducting that empirical research, it took me more than 1.5 years. And people are not cooperative. It is very difficult to get in touch with the right set of people to actually know things from the stakeholders. So that's the only drawback of non-doctrinal research. Else, it is way better than doctrinal research. And today, usually if you are writing a research proposal and if it has got something to do with the non-doctrinal study, or it is an empirical research, it gets a lot of kind of positive feedback from the people who are sitting in the board, who is going to kind of say yes to your proposal. So if you look at the comparison between the two, doctrinal is a theoretical research, non-doctrinal, it is a practical research. Doctrinal research relies on the already existing secondary sources like article, commentaries, books, etc. But the primary sources, they collect the information for the first time, and they use methods like survey and case studies. Doctrinal research is more of library-based or armchair research, and non-doctrinal includes fieldwork. Doctrinal research, if you talk about my field, it talks about the question that what is law, etc. But when I say non-doctrinal research, it means that we want to know that how the law is performing practically. Doctrinal research is narrower, but non-doctrinal research is wider. What does what does it imply? That doctrinal research usually confined to its own field, but in case of non-doctrinal research, we can kind of it is usually interdisciplinary. Say for example, if I want to know the psychology of the judges when they are pronouncing judgment, so it will be a mix of ethics, law, and psychology. So experimental research, non-doctrinal research is always field-based. So I hope you are clear with the concept of non-doctrinal research. And this completes our first part, because now I'm going to proceed to the second aspect, which concerns the interpretation of the data which is collected through non-doctrinal research. Doctrinal, of course, we find the gap, and then we come out with the conclusion. But in case of non-doctrinal data, non-doctrinal research, we collect a lot of data, and this need to be interpreted. So for that interpretation, the second part is going to be helpful. So let us proceed to the second aspect. So non-doctrinal research, as I told you, it performs so many functions in the society. We need to learn the basics of the interpretation of the data, which is collected through it by employing the methods like questionnaire, interview, survey, etc. So if you can see the data interpretation, what does it imply? There is very good definition, which is given by Kruger in 1994. It states that interpretation involves attaching meaning and significance to the analysis. What does that mean? There is an analysis of, there is a data which is available to you. This data need to be analyzed, some meaning need to be attached to it. Then we have to explain the pattern which is visible from this analysis, and then we have to find out the relationship and linkage between these various dimensions. And after that, we have to report, we have to kind of give an interpretation to the conclusion that are derived from this linkage. So ideally speaking, when we collect the data, we need to interpret it. Of course, first and foremost, the data has to be accurate. But once the data is available with us, it has to go through these 4 stages. So data interpretation is not simply one single process, but not a single phenomena. It is a process, and this process comprises of these 4 sub aspects of it. So when I say data interpretation, what exactly do I mean? It means that the data needs to be processed. We have to assign some meaning to the data. We have to arrive at a conclusion. So these results, which are available in front of us, after the data analysis, we have to make inferences on the relation or the phenomena which is under study. So, and then we have to conclude things. So before we proceed with the interpretation, the actual interpretation, it need to be analyzed. So this analysis of data comprises of these four. Dr. Anand, please mute yourself. Dr. Anand, please mute yourself. All right. So when I say data interpretation, what I mean to say is that this data has to be converted, this raw data has to be converted into some kind of a meaningful statement. We need to find out the trends, the needs, requirements, etc. So for processing of data, the data which is collected, there are these few steps which we need to comply with the processing of the data. So analysis in itself can be subdivided into two aspects. First is related to the processing of data, and the second one is analysis of data. So बहुत सारा data हमारे पास में है. We have to first process it. Before we actually give an analysis of the data, we have to process it. So what do we exactly mean by the processing of data? The raw data should be consolidated, should be regrouped, should be condensed, should be condensed into manageable groups, and we have to ensure that it becomes purposeful. So the analysis of data comprises of these 5 sub stages. We have to edit the data. When I say editing of the data, it means field editing or central editing. We have to do the coding of the data, which can be numeric, alphanumeric, zero coding. Then we have to do a classification based on the attributes, intervals. We have to tabulate the data. And then finally, we have to do the computation. So this data, which is not that meaningful, is converted into a meaningful data. And once the computation is complete, we go to the second stage, which is analysis proper, in which we do the statistical analysis of the data. So, yeah.
Ma'am, can you please elaborate on coding, numeric, alphanumeric, zero coding?
Grishma, don't worry, I'm going to them separately. So the first step in processing of data is the concept of the first step before data is actually able to analysis. We have to, do the processing of the data. So what is this? These are the operation of processing of data. So the first operation is editing. When I say editing means you have to detect the error, you have to detect the omission and correct it. So editing means the review of the questionnaire. And what is the objective? The objective is to increase the accuracy and precision. So whenever there is any error in the data, if possible, we have to eliminate the error in the filled questionnaire. So one has to do a careful scrutiny of the completed questionnaire or the schedule. We have to ensure that it is complete, accurate, uniform. It can be checked while editing the data. So idea is to have a correct and a complete data. For example, there are 50 questionnaires that are completed by the respondents, and one of the questionnaire is not complete. There are a few points which are missing. So, then and there we have to ensure that the details are supplied. We can get in touch with the respondent And which is why, it is always good that rather than mailing the list of questions, you should be personally visiting the respondent, and you should be kind of telling them about the contents of the questionnaire, so that they are in a position to actually answer well. So as a researcher, you can either do the field editing, that is then and there, you have to uh, kind of supply the missing information. You have to ensure that everything is written in a legible writing. You as a researcher are able to understand what is written, or you can go the same day. You can then get it complete. The second one is the central editing. So field editing means then and there on the same day, or maybe the next day, you try to supply the correct information. Else, there are situations when, you have to discard the questionnaire. This situation, is a little, distressing, and which is why we always take a buffer of say 10 or 20 sample more, so that in case, one of the questionnaire is not correctly filled or the responses are not complete, then of course we can discard the responses of that particular respondent, and we can from the pool pick up another respondent. Then there is central editing. It implies that the time when all the data is collected and the entire data is in front of us, there might be single or common editor who is going to correct the errors, correct the entry in the wrong places, entry in wrong unit, etc. So all the wrong answers are ideally dropped from the final results. To avoid this situation, it is always necessary that we do the proper editing of the data, especially when it is a scenario of field editing. I hope you are clear with the concept of editing. Second is the idea of coding. So coding, of course, there are. Please mute yourself, Apurva Mathur. Please mute yourself. So I am, next going to tell you the difference between quantitative and qualitative research. For the time being, you have to remember that qualitative means, color of my eyes, color of my hair, my skin texture, etc. So height, age, these are all, the quality of a particular phenomenon. So usually this qualitative research requires the aspect of coding. That is, you want to convert the data into some kind of a numeric form, so that it is easy for you to draw some kind of a interpretation out of it. So usually we do the coding, we assign certain codes to it. It can be simply coding in the form of 1 for yes, 2 for no, or it can be, alphanumeric coding, wherein, we write a short form for a particular phenomena under study, and then we give it a code like 1, 2, 3. Completely agree, disagree, 2 points, 3, alphanumeric coding can also be done. So in coding, a particular numerical or symbol is assigned to the answer in order to put the response in some defined categories or classes. So the idea is to make the data efficient, effective. The responses are categorized into meaningful classes, and we always, even if it is a qualitative research, we try to develop a questionnaire in which the coding will be possible later on. So coding can be done for every response which we get in the qualitative research. The third point is classification. So the scattered data has to be divided into some kind of a concise logical form to compare and find the cause and effect. So classification has to be done. और इसके लिए क्या हम कर सकते हैं? It can be a class interval, it can be frequency attribute, like the city, the population is done, you know, etc. So we classify. जैसे हम we can classify it into the into you know, even if it is a questionnaire which has 24 questions to it, still there can be certain classification. Classification can be with respect to yes, sir. Shaista, please mute yourself, Shaista. There can be a classification. Shaista, please mute yourself. Shaista.
Dear participants, you are requested to mute yourself unless until it is not required to unmute.
All right. So when I say classification, there should be some common characteristic, and you know, the collected raw data it should be categorized into some common group having common feature. Say, for example, if it is a questionnaire comprising of 25 questions, top 5 questions can be to the personal profile. Supposing we are, you know, discussing the labor laws and the status of the laborers, you know, or how much money they do they have backup to sustain themselves if the union is trying to go on a strike. So, you know, we have to have certain categories to it. I will give you one practical example once I am done with the theory part, so that you will be clear about the editing, coding, classification, tabulation, etc. So classification is usually a classification which can be based on certain attributes like literacy, sex, marital status, height, weight, income, etc. It can be on the basis of the interval, that is, you know, age can further be classified into 12, say 18 to 21, 21 to say 27. So these are the classification on the basis of the interval. So depending what is your research all about, you can do that classification as well. Then we have to go to the tabulation. But before we go to the tabulation part, there is one more point that you have to remember. In between, we have to do the transcription of data. That is transferring the data collected on a data sheet with summary of all the responses. So there will be a Excel sheet that you can prepare on which all the data will be there. So the idea is that supposing your sample size is 200, every time shuffling those 200 pages is going to be a tedious task. So what do? You prepare an Excel sheet for every question. Supposing there are 25 questions, you write a code to every you know, question, and below that you can write the response. So you will have an Excel sheet which is huge, which will contain all the responses, and then you are going to actually go to the tabulation, computation, etc., and you want to relate two phenomena to each other, or you want to see how with respect to one particular aspect the group is performing, you know, this transcription of data is going to come handy. So transcription helps in presentation of all responses. It can be manual for small data, or it can be an Excel sheet that you can prepare for the large data. So there will be observation as rows and responses as columns. And then we actually go to the concept of tabulation. That is, you summarize the result in statistical data form, which is easy for a layman to understand. So the idea is to conserve the space, minimize explanation, descriptive statement. The idea is to facilitate the process of comparison, summarization, etc. So every row and column, they are separate. There will be demarcation of one class from the other class. The data is concise, clear, adequately tiled, and you know, every unit is specially measured and it is mentioned in the tabular form. So now there is a huge chunk of comparable data which is available to you that you can put side by side, and then you know, you go to the computation part wherein statistical data, analyze the data at the same time, process this compact, and display the information in the form of statistical table for further analysis. Today we have a lot of packages available in the market like SPSS, etc., wherein you just feed the input and the results will be available in no. So this is the process of processing of the data. That is, the raw data which is in front of you need to be edited, need to be coded, need to be classified, tabulated, and then you can compute. So this data is ready in front of you. If you are not that computer literate, probably you can seek assistance from a person who is well versed with the computer operations, and it will be a smooth sailing for you. So this data is now in front of you, and from this data you want to kind of analyze certain aspects which are mentioned in your hypothesis or mentioned as a research question. So you are going to do the proper analysis, and this is also known as inferential or statistical analysis. So I have told you that how the processing of data is a highly efficient, time saving, a high speed process which is going to reduce your time and effort, and the chances of error are reduced because of this processing of data. However, as I told you previously, there are a lot of efforts that goes into the processing of the data. You should be knowledgeable in the computer latest technique of it. You should be computer literate. But if you have the knack for it, it is going to be a very interesting journey to undertake. So this processing of data is used not only for the research purpose in the colleges, but in the banking sector, educational department, logistic, hospitals, everywhere we use this concept of processing of data. Supposing you're visiting a hospital and you want to know about a particular patient, of course, the receptionist, they must be having this processed data, and from there they can churn out the detail and then can clearly tell you that which floor you should be going to visit the patient. So that's the advantage of processing of data. Now comes the analysis of data, which is also known as the analysis proper. As I told you, the first stage is a basic stage of making the data, raw data, in a presentable form. But second stage of analysis of data or analysis proper is when the entire data will be viewed in the light of the hypothesis, research questionnaires, etc. And then you are going to draw certain conclusion. So there will be a certain, variables under study. So you have to do the statistical analysis to determine the pattern of relationship among these variables. And, you have to kind of identify the causal relationship between these phenomena. So you use concepts like average, percentage, measures of dispersion, mean, median, mode, etc. to analyze the hypothesis, testing the hypothesis, and then coming to some kind of a conclusion. I'm sure in data, one of the previous lecture has, of course, dealt with this aspect. So I hope you are clear with the concept of analysis of data. After analysis, we have 2-3 more aspects to go into. I've already told you that there are 4 stages to the data interpretation, but I have only dealt with the first aspect, which is analysis. After analysis, it is important for me to tell you about the concept of the qualitative and the quantitative data, because the data that we collect can be divided into 2 broad categories. It can be quantitative, it can be qualitative. So we need to understand it so that we know how each variety of research is conducted and how the data is processed in each of this variety of research. I've already told you that qualitative research, it is an in-depth understanding of human behavior and the reason why that behavior is there, what are the factors that lead to such kind of a behavior. So usually the quality, beauty, impact, social interaction, cause and effect, etc. are explored when we discuss the qualitative research. So usually this qualitative research or the narrative data, it is conducted by organizing the data into some common themes or categories. Uh, there are so many unconnected statements which are collected by interview, by observation, etc. So these are the methods by which the data is collected, but this data has to be processed. It for making the qualitative data worth researching, you have to convert it into some kind of a scale. So there are two types of scale which are used for that. The first one is the nominal scale and the second one is the ordinal scale. So when we say it's hot outside, it's cold outside, it's very cold, it's warm outside. So what is this? This is just the quality of the weather that we are talking about. So this is the nominal data. But if there's so much of nominal data, we will not be able to kind of come to some kind of a proper inference. So this nominal data has to be converted into the ordinal data. When I say ordinal data, it means there should be some categories which we need to prescribe for studying the common characteristic of a particular phenomena. So for example, we can make a scale on which very hot will be probably say 1, hot will be 2, warm will be 3, cold will be 4, very cold will be 5. So whatever is going to be the response of the respondent, we are going to quantify that response in tabular form. So what is required for every qualitative research? There's no harm in doing qualitative research, but then the data which is which you get from a qualitative research need to be arranged in a given order. It should be placed on a scale, and then only the proper decision on what statistical analysis one should follow and how this data should be construed will help. So qualitative research, it is based on opinion, experience. It is ideal for small sample. Usually by interview or focus group, we collect the information. It is always good for in-depth analysis. Say, for example, if you want to know the customer's preference, it is going to be helpful to do the qualitative research. Ideally, in this type of a research, the open-ended questions are asked, wherein just one question will be asked and there will be 3-4 lines left for the respondent to answer. So these are these are not simply yes or no, but it is an open-ended inquiry and you get a lot of details about the phenomena under study. However, to actually come to some kind of a conclusion, this has to be converted into some kind of a scale by the process of coding. So coding is specific. The concept of coding that we discussed, editing, coding, classification, tabulation, and computation. So coding is specific to the concept of qualitative research. As far as quantitative research is concerned, of course, the data is already collected in the form of in the numerical form, which can be easily put into categories. It is simply a yes, no, or a proper classification is already given. So it is very easy to explain, predict, and control the phenomena of interest and to kind of produce the quantifiable, reliable data with the help of quantitative research. So I hope you are clear with the difference between these two types of research. So this is one example wherein the qualitative data is converted into quantitative data. So for example, if you are discussing the customer services, you want to know whether they are good or bad. Again, for good and bad, you can have some kind of coding to each response, which will help you to explain, predict, and come to some kind of a conclusion about the phenomena under study. So I hope you are clear with this concept of analysis of data and how it is relevant for both the qualitative and the quantitative data. The next point which we are going to discuss is regarding the interpretation of the data. That is, how do you interpret the data? And sorry, I forgot to tell you that in case of a quantitative data, there are a lot of statistical terms which are used. There can be concept of mean, median, mode, standard deviation, frequency distribution, regression analysis, cohort analysis, etc., which are specific to study the phenomena. So what is mean? All of you must be knowing that if we are studying the height of students in a particular class, we will take the height of every student, and then we will come to the mean of it, that is the numerical average for a set of response, and then we will say that in class 10th, this is the mean average height of the student. So for analyzing the quantitative data, or quantitative data which is converted into code, we can use the statistical concept of mean. Then we have standard deviation, that is from the mean, from the midpoint, how much deviation is there. It can be plus or minus figure. Then we have something called the frequency distribution, that is we measure the rate of a response appearance within a particular data set. For example, आपने वो देखा होगा, where the responses appear like agree, strongly agree, disagree, etc. So these are the frequency distribution. So we get to know how frequently one response is appearing. Then we can have regression analysis. So there are a lot of methods, statistical method which we use. Usually, if you are from social sciences background, there are not much requirement unless and until you are from a marketing MBA background, that you need to indulge in so many type of statistical analysis. They're easy to understand, but then you need to have a strong background in maths to actually understand all these concepts. So for the time being, you just need to remember the concept of mean, median, standard deviation, etc. Now let us go to the second aspect of our discussion. As I told you that for data interpretation, these are the 4 sub points that we need to discuss. So I have just finished the discussion about analysis. Secondly, I'm going to go to the concept of interpretation. Then I will discuss generalization and presentation. So let me take you to the second aspect, which is related to interpretation. When I say interpretation, it means, again, if you look at the meaning of the term interpretation, it is also interwoven with the concept of analysis of data. And it must be conceived of as a special aspect of analysis rather than a separate or a distinct operation. So when I say interpretation, what does it imply? It implies the relationship amongst the collected data with analysis. So interpretation is a tool to explain the observation of the researcher with the help of the data which they have collected. And of course, it can be helpful in the future research. So, we look beyond the data and we look at the other researches our theory, our hypothesis, and in light of those pre-existing phenomena, theories, hypotheses, research questions, etc. We look at the data, which is now a processed data, and then we try to interlink these two things, that is the already existing theory and hypothesis and the research question, and the data, process data, which is there in front of us. We try to find some kind of a link between the two or gaps, and then we come to a conclusion. We write that what are the gaps and what future research can be done for a better insight into a particular formula. So when interpreting, the researcher should ensure that the data is appropriate, trustworthy, adequate for drawing inferences. The researcher has to be cautious about error, and he need to take every action so that the error is not there. So researcher must try to bring out, with these relationship between the theory and the data, that what are the hidden facts, what are the obvious factors, and the facts to be the, which need to be combined with the factual interpretation. So the researcher has to ensure that there should be constant interaction between the initial hypothesis, the premises with which you started your research, what are your empirical observation, what is the theoretical concept, and then by looking at these three aspects together, you have to come to some kind of a interpretation. So interpretation of data, these are the certain meanings which can be attributed to the concept of data interpretation. That is, you inquire information, make informed decision, you can make future prediction, you get a clear foresight to identify needs and trends, data identification and explanation, etc. The third aspect of data interpretation relates to the generalization. So when I say generalization, what does it means? It is an act of reasoning. So it involves drawing broad inferences from a particular observation. So there are these three varieties of tree, but together they can be, they can have different shape and sizes, but what exactly it is a tree only. So similarly, there could be, few theories, few datas existing, your hypothesis, your research question, etc. But based on these different parameters, you have to come to some kind of a generalization. You have to say that to what extent the findings of empirical investigation hold for a variation of population and settings. So it is sort of a validity that you give to your research, and whether the finding of one particular study can be applied to unexamined subject and context. So it is, generalization is the act of reasoning. It is a process of creating a more broad categories of data in database, essentially zooming out from the data to create more general picture of the trends or insights that it provides. So for example, if you have a data set that includes the age of a group of people, the data generalization process may look like this. So if you look at the original data, it can be a scattered data, but when you generalize the data, you come to some kind of a meaningful conclusion out of it. Supposing I am studying the concept of online buyers, that is how many people are doing online shopping. So the original data, you can collect by sending the loyal buyers of, say, Amazon, a questionnaire in which they will write that, my age is this, that, etc. So there will be few ages, and then you will do the generalization and you will say that people who are falling within the category of 40 to 59 are the people who are generally the buyers of online, are the loyal customers of Amazon, or are generally the buyers who are doing online shopping. So original data, it can be scattered, but from that original data, you have to come to a generalized data so that some kind of an inference can be deduced about the topic which is under study. So after this, we come to the last aspect of my presentation, which is again the presentation of the data or the visualization of the data. So data is coded, analyzed, etc. It is processed. It is there in front of you. You've done the statistical analysis also. You have done a generalization also. But then, as a layman, to the third party who is not aware about your research well, so as a presenter, you have to show them that what exactly have you done, what are your conclusion, etc. So the statistical data has to be presented, because the statistical data will be burdensome. You want to make it more friendly. You want to help the users to study and explain the statistic thoroughly. For that, the presentation of a data is very, very important. So the visualization, it makes it easy for the layman to understand the data, also encourage people to view the data, and it provides an appealing summary of the data. So there are various techniques of data visualization that you can rely upon. So if you look at the presentation aspect of it, there are these 4 type of charts and tables that you usually use. So before going to each of these data interpretation techniques, there are other techniques also which I should be telling you. So as I told you that this data is going to uncover many truths that are complex and that need to be explained. So usually there are 3 methods of data presentation. It can be textual. Textual, what does that mean? That you simply write that this is what I observed, these are my findings, etc. So you can write one para about your finding with respect to one particular aspect of your larger research. But the demerits of relying on the textual way of presenting data is that people might not be interested in reading the whole text. So to get a clear picture, they need some kind of a visual representation. So of course, there can be textual way of presenting data by introduction, summary, conclusion, etc. But it will not be of that help. The second way is the tabular way of data presentation and analysis. That is, you use table and charts to present the data. You simply come out with a table with rows and columns, and each column have an attribute, say for example, name, year, sex, age, and other things under consideration. Again, making a sense out of this tabular representation won't be that smooth. So the next and the most important aspect is the diagrammatic presentation of the data or the graphical presentation of the data. So when I say diagrammatic presentation, what I mean to say is that data is presented in a manner which says a lot within a short amount of time. So there are few categories of data visualization or diagrammatic presentation. So the first one is the bar graph, which can be of 3 types. They can be stacked bar, or they can be chart title, chart type, etc. So bar chart, they are used. These are the rectangular bars to show the relationship between 2 variables. They're horizontal bar chart. They can be column bar chart. They can be stacked bar chart, wherein the horizontal axis and the vertical axis represent the variables that are under consideration. Then we have the pie chart. Now, before I go to pie chart, let me tell you the advantage of the bar graph. So if you look at the bar graph, it is it is very easy to summarize a large data in a short span of time. You can easily understand the phenomena which is under consideration. But of course, if a layman is looking at these chart, some kind of additional explanation is required to understand the idea which these bar graphs are trying to convey. Then we have something called the pie chart. Again, pie chart, they show the proportional composition of variable. Say, for example, how many people are subscriber to Netflix, MX Player, Woot, Amazon, etc. So if you want to know, there can be this donut pie chart, there can be simple pie chart, there can be 3D pie chart, which give you a comparative analysis. So for example, if there are 50 students in the class and say 10 like ice cream, 10 like momos, and 15 like say Thai food, so you get a comparative analysis of the likings of the student in a particular class. So this donut will speak a lot about the information that you want to convey. So it is visually appealing. It is best for comparing small data. You can compare the data easily. The next one are the tables. I've already told you about the tables. They are also helpful. They're especially useful when you want to portray data in a raw format. You can place them in rows and columns. They can be simple table, they can be complex table. When you simply want to study about the age group, it will be simple table. If you want to study about the complex phenomena, that how many people are employed, how and what age group are they belonging to, and what is the sex of those people employed in a particular organization, a complex table will be required. So, the advantage is when you want to compare two or more similar things, this is going to give you information. However, the information is not that detailed information. Then we have something called the line graph. Again, line graphs are very important in showing how the data is changing over a period of time. Say, for example, if we are studying the concept of Bitcoin and how many people are buying it, the line graph will be very important, will give an important insight into the estimate sale of Bitcoin in a particular year. So if you want to know about a trend, how the trend is changing over a period of time, you can use the chart, these line graph, visualization form of representation. Lastly, there are certain pitfalls which one should be avoiding when dealing with the data. One has to ensure that presenting the data has got nothing to do with the research question. So if the data does not have a role in the answering of the main aim of the study, then it should be ignored. So one should present only the data which relates to the research question. The unrelated data should not be there. While formulating your questionnaire, again, you can conduct a pilot study. You can actually meet 2-3 respondents. You can, ask questions from the schedule that you have prepared. They will tell you the response, and while employing that, you will understand that what are the irrelevant questions and what are the questions which are going to help your research. So when presenting, interpreting the data, you have to ensure that the data which has got nothing to do with the research question should not be a part of the interpretation process. Secondly, usually what people do, they become selective. They present only some of the data and they try to draw conclusion without referring to the supporting data. So it is always helpful that if you want to get a deeper insight into a particular phenomena, rather than just focusing on the limited data which is important for your reference, you should be looking into the supporting aspects also. Say, for example, if you are studying the psychology of judges, it is also important that you look into the socio-economic background from which they are coming, from where they did their education, etc. It will speak a lot about why a particular judge is giving particular kind of a decision. So supporting data has to be given a consideration. Then using the data presentation technique which is inappropriate for data itself, it should be avoided. Using the same presentation technique over and over again, it is not that good, and it is expected that you look beyond the generic data. You use your imagination and you try to come up with something original by linking various aspects of the data that you have collected. You can always come out with a new theory, a novel theory, just by analyzing the data that is there in front of you. You can also combine more than one data which is presented together. So you should be using the techniques in a accurate manner. Above that, while interpreting the data, you should be very vigilant about the mistakes that you do with relation to the correlations. Your biasness can creep inside because you have a particular hypothesis to prove, and so you are motivated to neglect the other data which probably could give you a good insight into a phenomena. And because you have a biasness as a researcher, you want to prove a particular point, you skip that relevant data. Again, if the sample size is small, it is not going to be a representative sample size, and probably the results might not be what exactly is there in the field. The data that you collect should be reliable, it should be subjective, and if the initial data is correct, of course, the results are going to be good. After that, I will suggest that the researcher has to be careful about the data that is collected. It should be trustworthy, it should be adequate, it should be properly analyzed. There should not be any false generalization. So every precaution must be taken concerning the reliability of the data, computational check, validation, etc. So researcher has to keep in mind that there is a constant interaction between the initial hypothesis with which you started your research, the empirical observation that you have made, the theoretical conceptions which are existing, and the originality and creativity that you employ when the data is interpreted. In this entire process, the computers are of a great help because they expedite your research work, they add quality to your research, and they can perform various statistical calculations. So you should be clear about the ways and tricks of those statistical calculation. There are so many software packages which are freely available online through which you can, kind of analyze your data. You merely need to feed the data gathered, and the software are going to help you. The results will be ready within seconds. You can employ your creativity, you can imagine different scenarios, and in no time you will get an insight into that phenomena. Of course, computers, they have a large storage capacity. Innumerable analysis processing of data can be done, and various design, pictorial, graphicking, reporting, etc. can be developed. So I will suggest that computer education is must for every researcher, so that they can they are well placed as far as the interpretation of data is concerned. So I hope this is the gist of my presentation. I've discussed the logic of research, why it is important, because we are a welfare state. We want to know about certain phenomena. We want to frame policies. If we are into marketing research, we want to know how consumers are behaving, how companies are behaving. This research usually which goes to the field and study a phenomena is known as the non-doctrinal research. It can be quantitative or qualitative, but be it quantitative or qualitative, it need to be converted into some form of a manageable data. And for that, we have these 4 stages of data interpretation. We have to analyze the data, we have to interpret the data, we have to make certain generalization based on the interpretation, and then these generalization need to be presented to the viewer so that they can easily understand what is your hypothesis, what is the logic with which you started the research, and what are the results of your research. Now, let me take you to this small research which I did. So it was way back in 2010 when I did this empirical study. And please forgive me for a lot of errors because I could not find the fair copy of this empirical study. This empirical study was later on converted into a form of a book, which is easily available for the legal awareness of the people who want to access the concept of RTI, especially in the context of public distribution system. All of you know that public distribution system means, providing ration to the slum dwellers who have got a particular kind of a card. It can be Antyodaya, it can be BPL, etc. So usually they are not given the ration properly. So how they can utilize the concept of RTI? So it was a handbook that was prepared later on, and this is a small empirical study which I conducted to substantiate my claim that people are not getting their dues. So the final report was about the introduction, wherein I introduced the concept of PDS, how it works, RTI, how it works, and how RTI can be used in the PDS system with respect to our right to food, which is a constitutionally guaranteed right. So I have framed certain objective, I have proposed certain problems, and this was my hypothesis. So with this hypothesis, I proceeded to collect the data. So I want to find out whether the scheme has achieved its desired purpose and how RTI can be helpful in this regard. So this is the interpretation of data which I have done. So of course, let me go to the end. This was the questionnaire that I made, and this questionnaire had various classification to it. The first one was being respondents profile, public distribution system ke baare mein, there are a few questions which I asked. Third was about RTI. Fourth was about how RTI can be used in the public distribution system. So if you can see, I will discuss the first aspect of it, that, what is the respondent's profile? And, this is the visual representation, the pie, chart which I prepared to tell that what is the educational level of these slum dwellers, whether they are literate, illiterate, etc. So if you can see this visual representation and providing certain details about this phenomena, as a layman, you will understand that from where my respondents are coming. Apart from this, I have to give a small para, because for a layman, it will not be easy to understand that what is this education group, what I am exactly trying to do in this, pie chart. So I have to do what? I have to give a few details about my respondent, etc. Second is about PDS. So out of the 100%, 42% are APL, BPL, and 19% are AAY, Antyodaya scheme. So I have given that these 100 respondents who are the slum dwellers, from among them who are from the APL, BPL, and Antyodaya, and the related aspect, that is, what is the nature of the ration card. So if you can say, majority of them are from the APL. How much they are getting? They are not getting 35 kg, getting, whether their card is cancelled, etc., whether it is lost, whether it is active or non-active. So you get a complete picture about the entitlement of 35 kg of food grain that they are supposed to get. Now, this is about whether the ration shop is opening regularly or not. So they have given their opinion that in a month, only once it is opened. But, it was said that twice the ration should be given. So, again, I have given a brief explanation. Whether the complaint book is available in the shop, or what is the quality of the food grain is just okay, whether people are aware. So what is this? This is a, what is it? This is a, first, I've told you, So this diagram is telling us that the bar diagram is telling us about the awareness of the RTI, whether they are aware or not aware. From among the 50 female, 50 male, what is their awareness level? Whether they have media access, that is, is there any information that is coming to them through media? So if you can see, so many of them were having TV, but they said that they never heard about RTI on TV. They got to know it from the radio. So if you can see, there's a lot of interpretation that you can give to the data based on the data that you've collected. After the collection of the data, I have given a brief, interpretation to the coded data. And later on, I have drawn certain generalization about what is the status of or level of awareness of RTI, level of corruption in the PDS system in these two slum cluster of Delhi. So these are my, kind of reply to the study. I hope you guys are clear. Yes. With this, I'm done with my presentation. If you have any question, please feel free.
If the participants have any questions, they can directly unmute themselves and ask. Now they can unmute themselves. Do we have any questions for this session? The participants can type it in the chat box or they can directly unmute themselves. I guess Thakkar sir has some question.
Yes. All right, I think we are good to go.
Yes, ma'am. I guess there are no more questions for this session. Should we proceed with the formal vote of thanks, ma'am?
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our invitation for this lecture. And we are privileged to have you with us for this 1 week faculty development program on the day 5th, session 1. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
So moving on towards the second session will begin at 5 o'clock sharp. So the participants can rejoin or they can stay tuned with us till the further session. Thank
All right.
you.
So thank you, Gaurav. I'm taking a leave now.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Bye.
Bakshi sir, good afternoon. Your mic is not connected. Bakshi sir, am I audible to you? Good afternoon, sir. So you're not audible. Bakshi, so you're not audible.
Gaurav sir, session will start at 5, right?
Yes, it will start at 5. We are just checking the audio.
Yeah, 5 o'clock, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
So your audio is not.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are audible now.
We'll start at 5 o'clock. Okay.
Yes, yes,
I'm
sir.
here already.
Yes, sir.
We'll start at 5.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Hello. Battery inverter. खाली बैटरी बदलनी है। कौन सा एड्रेस पे है? कहाँ से आया आपको रिक्वेस्ट? हाँ तो आजादपुर की तरफ से हैं तो मोती नगर में आइए, और मोती नगर में भिक्षु हॉस्पिटल है, भिक्षु हॉस्पिटल। करमपुरा से आते हो तो थोड़ा, करमपुरा से थोड़ा आगे आ जाओ।
A very good evening to all in one present here, and a warm welcome to our resource person, Professor A.K. Bakshi, sir. We welcome you to the fifth day's second session of the online faculty development program on academic research writing and best practices. Today, for the second session, we have Professor A.K. Bakshi, sir, Vice Chancellor, PDM University, Bahadurgarh. Sir, today, sir will be speaking on the topic education for holistic development and well-being in the 21st century. Welcome to you, sir, and over to you.
Good afternoon, Gaurav, and good afternoon, all the participants. Should we wait for the participants or we can start?
So we can start.
We can start. Okay. Thank you very much. And it's indeed a pleasure to be a part of this program. And my today's program, as per the schedule, is on, basically I will be speaking on a very general motivational talk, which I think is going to be very, very important for you. And let me share my screen. Please enable me.
Yes, sir. Please check.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
So as you can see, the title of my talk is Education for Holistic Development and Well-Being in the 21st Century. So quite a different type of talk, but I'm very sure that you will find it extremely useful and it can prove a game changer in your career. This is basically a motivational talk for the participants to enable them to succeed and thrive in the 21st century. The concept map of the talk is like this, as you can see here. Education provides us learning. And through learning, all types of developments occur: motor development, mental development, emotional development, moral development, social development. And this leads to holistic development and all-round developed personality. That ultimately leads to your well-being and helps you in leading a meaningful life. So that is the broad outline of my talk, and I will expand it and explain to you each and every aspect. Please remember, preparation through education is less costly than learning through tragedy. So it will try to prepare you through education. So let's start with the first aspect: education versus learning. Let's be very clear about it. You know, learning is the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, traits, etc. through study, experience, or being taught. So that is all the meaning of learning. And you know, we have three types of education. One is the formal education, which is associated with schools, colleges, universities, etc. Then is an informal education, which comes through social interactions, traveling, free from rules and regulations, etc. And third is non-formal education, which comes through training programs and other faculty developments program, etc. For example, this faculty development program comes under non-formal education. So in all, there are three types of education, and each type of education one learns.
Participants, please mute yourself.
And please remember that learning is a continuous process from childhood onwards. Through either of these forms or all these forms ultimately help in learning, and that is why we call it a lifelong learning. And it said that intellectual growth commences at birth and ceases only at death. That is the meaning of lifelong intellectual growth or learning. Please remember that learning is a journey and not a destination. And just as there are 3 types of education, there are also 3 domains of human learning. One domain is cognitive domain, that is mental skills development takes place through knowledge, where thinking is involved and head is the main place where this takes place. This is called cognitive domain. Second is psychomotor domain, that is physical skills are improved. Here doing is by hand. So here hand is involved. For example, reading, writing, typing, all this comes under psychomotor domain. And the third is affective domain, which is the feeling part, where heart is involved. And it basically deals with emotional attitudes or emotional, feelings, etc. For example, you develop certain interests or attitudes or appreciation or values, all that come through affective domain. So these are the 3 domains of human learning. And as you can see, head, hand, and heart, they are involved in these 3 domains. In head, we have cognitive domain, in hand, we have psychomotor domain, and in heart, we have affective domain. So cognitive domain involves thinking, affective domain involves feelings, and psychomotor domain involves doing. At cognitive level, that means at the mental level, the main purpose of education is not the learning of the facts, but the training of the mind to think. Please remember, our greatest natural resource is the minds of our children. India is one of the youngest nations of the world. 50% of India's population is less than 25 years. And 65% population is less than 35 years. So you can see, India has a big advantage in terms of young population. And therefore, it becomes our responsibility to ready our children for future, for holistic development. Students may be 25% of our population, but they are 100% of our future. So children must be taught how to think and not what to think. And therefore, we need to encourage inquisitiveness and out-of-box thinking in our students from childhood, from school level. Unfortunately, our education system, does not encourage thinking, innovation, and creativity. We focus more on rote learning. We therefore need to shift focus from rote learning to thinking, innovation, and creativity. So why our education system does not encourage thinking? That may be a question in your mind. What is the fundamental flaw in our education system? In order to explain this, just watch this video. This clearly explains the fundamental flaw in our education system.
For decades, people have been finding hundreds of flaws in the education system. No conceptual understanding, no creativity, children are stressed, and the list goes on. All these are symptoms. But what is the root cause to all this? What is the fundamental flaw in the education system? Let us play a rapid-fire game. You have 1 second to answer every question. Let's start. First question, A4? Okay, no more questions. Did you think apple first? 98% of people are most likely to think so. because that was what we were told in our kindergarten. Imagine that this was done differently. Say we had asked you for all the words starting with A, ant, ace, April, apt. Different answers would have popped out of everyone's head. Do you see where the problem is? Before children start going to school, every child is unique. Every child thinks different. But the education system makes every child think the same. This is the fundamental flaw in the education system. Why did this start? During the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century, the education system was designed to make children ready to work in factories. The factories did not require people to think, but to only work like robots. So, the education system stripped children of their freedom to think and destroyed their true potential. The same education system continues even today. Only the industries have changed. A study by NASA shows that 98% of children think different before they start going to school. As they go through this education system, at 25 years of age, only 2% think different and 98% think the same. So how does the education system make every child the same? Let's go back to the apple example. Kindergarten lessons told us that A is for apple. We asked you for words that start with A. Our education system gave us the answers. We asked you a question. Answers make you the same. Questions make you different. Right from kindergarten, the education system keeps giving answers. Instead of asking children how plants make food, the science teacher gives you the definition of photosynthesis. Instead of asking them to describe the sun, the teacher tells them that the sun is a ball of fire at the center of the solar system. Through their years in school, children lose the capability to think on their own. Whether it is their choice of career or their relationship or any situation in life, they become.
So you can very well see how our education system stripped the children of their ability to think on their own. And that's why, we have all the problems. Why is it not working? Gaurav,
Yes, sir.
why is it stopped?
Sir, I guess you just manually shift this first, then it will start working.
No, it's no, it's not going. It's not moving at all. I'll just quit and join back again.
Yes, sir.
I share again.
Yes, sir.
That is not there now. I don't know.
So go to the recent.
No, that's not a problem. We were here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what I mean to say is that our education system stripped the children of their ability to think on their own. So they cannot become creative. So without creativity, there can be no progress. And we would be forever repeating the same pattern. And in order to make our students creative, foundation for all this needs to be built from childhood. That is from school days onwards. through training of the mind to think. Please remember, a child miseducated is a child lost. Therefore, we cannot afford to lose even a single child. We have to take care of their right type of education. Second point which I want to say is the challenges of the present information age. You know, we are living in an information age where getting any information is possible just through a click of mouse. However, there are many challenges of this information age. One is the challenge that this is an age of uncertainty. You know, there is a future of jobs report published by the World Economic Forum in 2019, which states that 65% of the children entering primary school right now will be working in jobs that don't even exist right now. So we do not know in which type of jobs our students will be employed. So that is one aspect of the present information age, and because of which it is an age of uncertainty. Then this is also an age of artificial intelligence. It is an age where artificial intelligence will equal the intelligence of the students by the time they finish education. So thus, what does it mean? It means that if I can have machines with the same intelligence as you, then why do I need you? So this is another problem. And the third problem is, but one thing more, you should keep it in mind that the jobs in the industry in future are either going to become redundant or getting replaced by automation, artificial intelligence, robotics, and new business architecture. So therefore, you know, this age requires our individual students to be at ease with technology, uncertainty, and unforeseen risks. Third aspect is that this is also an age of mass education. You know, this is an age where more students over the next 30 years will graduate than since the beginning of the recorded history. Everywhere there is a, you know, an attempt to increase the gross enrollment ratio. So there will be very few traditional jobs, but many takers. So the competition is going to become very, very tough. So these are the three major challenges in this information age. So the challenge before a teacher in this information age, in this 21st century, is going to be how to teach students and to enable them to succeed in a future which is so highly uncertain. That is going to be a big, big problem. Third point which I want to mention is 21st century learning needs. As teachers, you should know what are going to be the needs of the students in future. You know, it is said that in the 21st century, if you want to excel, you need two things. One is rigorous academic content. You should be very good in the subject. Excellent. But at the same time, you should also have 21st century skills. They are going to play a very important role. So these two taken together will constitute deeper learning. So that is required in our students. Now, what are these 21st century skills? These are a set of abilities that students need to develop in order to succeed in this information age. You know, if students have these 21st century skills, it will help them keep up with the fast changing and developing modern world. So it will equip them for that. And what are these 21st century skills? These are the 21st century skills. They come under three categories. Learning skills, which includes critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. See, communication is here. Your faculty development program is on academic writing, research writing. So that comes under communication. Then we have literacy skills, information literacy, media literacy, and technology literacy. And third is life skills, which include flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. So these 12 skills are going to be the deciding factor in placement in this information age. You may ask the question, why suddenly these skills have become so important? The way the world is growing, these skills will become the most important factor, because you cannot have machines with these skills. You can't have a machine which is critical thinking. You can't have a machine which is creative. You can't have a machine which is having leadership quality. So all those individuals who are having these skills, they will have an advantage over the others. So that is the importance of the 21st century skills, which includes communication, about which we are dealing in this faculty development program. And it is said that these are the top missing soft skills amongst younger generations. So at the top is problem solving skill is missing 37%, critical thinking and innovation and creativity. These are missing in our students. Then 32% lack ability to deal with complexity and ambiguity. And 1% lack communication skills. So this is the top 3 missing soft skills in our students. Now you can understand why your program is on academic research writing. Why these writing skills are important. Writing skills matter a lot. It is the most common form of communication in the workplace. Please remember that. Your overall job performance may be evaluated on your ability to communicate in writing. And it has been proved by several studies that the number one factor in determining whether an individual will be successful in an organization or not depends upon whether she or he can effectively communicate in writing or not. So writing skills are very, very important. What makes good writing? Correct spelling, correct punctuation, correct grammar, use of connectors, range of vocabulary. The higher the vocabulary you have, the more advantageous position you are in. Then range of vocabulary and variety of sentence types which you can construct. Dividing the text into paragraphs. Awareness of purpose and audience. Organization, coherence, and cohesiveness and correct style. Coherence means it should be a logical progression of ideas. And then interconnection of the various ideas. So all these things make a good writing. And in academic research writing, I'm sure you are already being told by many speakers. In my opinion, whenever you have to write a research paper, there comes the academic research writing, and these features are going to be very, very important. One is the structure. It should be in a structured form as per the requirements of the journal where you want to publish it. Then it should be evidenced. Whatsoever you write, you should support it with correct citations or references. Then it should be critical. It should not be just discussion. It should be, whatsoever information you give, it should be, analyzed and evaluated. That is the critical approach. And then it should be precise. Your language should be precise. It should be balanced. If you are giving different viewpoints, there should be a balance of the time. Then it should be objective also. You should not look like biased in your approach. And then the language has to be a formal language. So these are some of the features of the academic research writing, but all comes under communication, the 21st century skill which I mentioned. One important thing which you have to keep it in mind is you should avoid plagiarism in your research writing. Don't copy anything. Even if you have to quote, there may be short quotations, but those should be within the quotation marks. Then to whatsoever extent it is possible, try to write your ideas in your own words. Avoid paraphrasing as much as possible. Don't try to copy anyone. And whenever you are in doubt, cite, but citation should also be to a limited extent. Then don't, recycle images, figures, tables, or text from your previously published papers without citing. Cite them, then it's okay. Or if you are using somebody else tables or diagrams, ask for the permission, take that permission, and then include them. So these are some of the rules which come to avoid plagiarism and which strengthen your academic research writing. So these are the things you have to keep it in mind. And then, you should be very clear about creative thinking and critical thinking. Creative thinking is thinking we do when we generate ideas. Creative. And critical thinking is the thinking we do when we judge ideas. So you should be very clear about these two aspects. One more thing which I would like to mention about 21st century is that because of this 21st century nature of education, the concept of success has changed considerably. Success has a different meaning now than what it had in the past. Successful people in the 21st century, they create their own jobs rather than working in the traditional job market. This is one very important change. Then they choose their own hours, their own office. They live and work anywhere in the world. And then they work with peers across the globe. This is what successful people do. Then they change what they are working on to keep up with their interests and abilities. And if they don't like doing anything, they outsource it. They travel as much as they want. And there is no fixed salary. They enjoy an earning potential that is not capped by a salary figure. So this is how the successful people are in the 21st century. And now, as you can see here, many of these big companies, they give so much importance to 21st century skills that they hire people without degrees. They don't bother. They say, okay, if you have skill, we will take you. Another point which I want to mention to you is that you need to acquire competence in order to achieve excellence. This is another stage. See, I have told you in my first point, education and learning. In second, I told you the challenges of the information age. In the third, I told you 21st century learning needs. And now in the fourth point, I'm telling you, you need to acquire competence for excellence. Now, quality education in the 21st century, as I mentioned, is along these 3 points. Knowledge, you should have disciplinary knowledge, you should have interdisciplinary knowledge, you should have practical knowledge. All 3 are important. Then you should have 21st century skills, which I just mentioned. And then you should also have the right values, attitudes, traits, disposition. That means a proactive personality. These three things taken together can help you to thrive and succeed in this modern world. You can't afford to ignore any one of them. So this is how the competence is defined: knowledge, skills, and proactive personality. So your aim in any subject you may be, wherever you may be, you are in the teaching profession or you are somewhere else, always acquire competence. And you know, in competence, it's something like an iceberg. In iceberg, you know, 1/9 of its volume is above water and the remaining is below water. Similarly, in respect of competence, knowledge and skills are above water. They are known to everybody. But personality, which ultimately decides your attitude, traits, thinking style, etc., they are below water. They are hidden. They are unknown to others. But then they become very crucial. They play a very important role in your professional growth. For example, in a university or in a college, almost everybody has the same qualification and skills, but personality differs. And that makes the big difference. How they deal with the peoples, whether they are good or bad. Slowly you come to know, because they are hidden, they are unknown to others. They are like below water in an iceberg. But they are very successful, a very important determining factor for successful performance. So what I mean to say is, for success in life, you need to have the right personality. There is a report that 87% of all people fail, not because of capability, but because of personality. And we never bothered about personality. We think that everybody has some personality. No, that becomes the deciding factor. And personality development is often neglected. But that becomes very crucial factor in human relations. By personality, I mean a set of traits and behaviors that characterize an individual. Personality doesn't mean only looks. No, that's not. So this is, you have to keep it in mind. And nobody becomes competent all of a sudden. It is a very slow process in life. Holistic development is a slow process. Please remember, life is a process. No one rises suddenly in this world, not even the sun. So you have to keep on working. You have to keep on making efforts in the right direction so that you become competent and lead a meaningful life. Now I will share with you some simple but really life-changing tips for becoming, what I mean is, for becoming a strong, proactive personality. That's what I will now talk about. And they can be the game changer in your life. I'm telling you. Watch these slides very carefully. They will enhance your competence. They will make you a great human being. So let's watch that. And they will also, tell you the art of living. The art of living is that whatsoever life you have, you should have the capability to draw pleasure from this life and to succeed in the greatest test. That test is life itself. So that is the art of living. Hardly people know about the art of living. And by the time they come to know, already time has gone. Most of us, generally in India, it has been found, we are not happy, always thinking, tense, depressed. Very bad situation. That's why, this was a recent report, World Happiness Report came in 2022. You can see here. And do you see where India stands? India stands at 136th position in happiness, so low. That's just the mindset. We have never been trained to lead a meaningful life. We have never been taught the art of living. So the first point which I want to tell you is be proactive in life. Proactive means if you are proactive, you focus on preparing. And if you are reactive, you focus on repairing. Proactive people don't wait for the ship to come in. They swim out to the ship. That is the proactivity. Another point you have to keep it in mind is decide your priorities in life. Just watch this.
Good afternoon, everyone. We all have this one life to live. A fleeting shadow amongst all that exists in this vast universe. We have the ability to accomplish anything, truly anything, if we use our time wisely. Is this jar full? Yes. And is it full now? Yes. And how about now? Is the jar full now? Yes. Now, I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. Golf balls are the important things, your family, your friends, your health, and your passions. The pebbles are the other important things, your car, your job, your home. The sand is everything else. It's just the small stuff. Now, if you put the sand in the jar first, you won't have room for the pebbles or the golf balls. The same is true in life. You spend all your energy and your time on the small stuff. You won't have time for all the really important things that matter to you. Pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness. Take care of the golf balls first, the really important things. Set your priorities, because everything else is just sand. Yes.
Professor, what is the beer?
I'm glad you asked.
So you can see that you should have priorities in life. And once you have chalked down your priorities, the next step is time management. Manage your time. Everybody gets 24 hours a day. The secret to success is how you manage those 24 hours. Try to maximize your performance in the shortest time. That is what you should aim at. Please remember, today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday. Time management is life management. And you should try to manage it very, very well. And please remember, every day is once in a lifetime. You never get it again. So just don't waste time. Manage it properly. एक हिंदी में है, वक्त दिखाई नहीं देता मगर दिखा बहुत कुछ देता है. Look at these people, what they were and how they changed. समय की धारा में all these were very big people, very popular, mass fan following. But see how the time changed them. So we don't know what happens to us. So please manage your time. And then, live in the moment. This is another thing you should keep it in mind. The present moment is the only moment available to us. And it is the door to all moments. So life becomes more meaningful when you realize the simple fact that you will never get the same moment twice. So please live in the moment. This is a big message. When we were young students, we used to listen to this song. I'm sure all of you must have heard. So I think the message is loud and clear. And then one thing more which I want to tell you is try to enhance your intrinsic value. World unfortunately respects only your position. Once your position is gone, nobody will bother about you. And one day your position will go, of course. So try to enhance your intrinsic value. Just watch this.
There was a former Undersecretary of Defense who was invited to give a speech at a large conference, about 1,000 people. And he was standing on the stage with his cup of coffee and a styrofoam cup, giving his prepared remarks with his PowerPoint behind him. And he took a sip of his coffee and he smiled and he looked down at the coffee. And then he went off script and he said, last year I spoke at this exact same conference. Last year I was still the undersecretary. And when I spoke here last year, they flew me here business class. And when I arrived at the airport, there was somebody waiting for me to take me to my hotel. And they took me to my hotel and they had already checked me in and they just took me up to my room. And the next morning I came downstairs and there was someone waiting in the lobby to greet me and they drove me to this here same venue. They took me through the back entrance and took me into the green room and handed me a cup of coffee in a beautiful ceramic cup. Since I'm no longer the undersecretary, I flew here coach. I took a taxi to my hotel and I checked myself in. When I came down the lobby this morning, I took another taxi to this venue. I came in the front door and found my way backstage. And when I asked someone, do you have any coffee? He pointed to the coffee machine in the corner and I poured myself a cup of coffee into this here styrofoam cup. He says the lesson is, the ceramic cup was never meant for me. It was meant for the position I held. I deserve a styrofoam cup. Remember this. As you gain fame, as you gain fortune, as you gain position and seniority, people will treat you better. They will hold doors open for you. They will get you a cup of tea and coffee without you even asking. They will call you sir and ma'am, and they will give you stuff. None of that stuff is meant for you. That stuff is meant for the position you hold. It is meant for the level that you have achieved of leader or success or whatever you want to call it. But you will always deserve a styrofoam cup. Remember that. Remember that lesson of humility and gratitude. You can accept all the free stuff. You can accept all the perks. Absolutely, you can enjoy them. But just be grateful for them and know that they're not for you. I remember getting off the Acela. I took the Acela from New York to Washington, D.C. And I got off the train like everybody else. And I was walking down the platform like everyone else. And I walked past General Norty Schwartz, who used to be the chief of staff of the United States Air Force, the head of the Air Force. And here I did, you see a guy in a suit schlepping his own suitcase down the platform just like me. And just a couple months ago, he was flying on private jets and he had an entourage and other people carried his luggage. But he no longer held the position. And so now he got to drag his own suitcase. And never did it sort of remind me more that none of us deserve the perks that we get. We all deserve a styrofoam cup.
So that's how the world treats you. So keep that thing in mind. Another thing, important is self-belief in your life. In order to succeed, you must always believe that you can. Always believe in yourself. Look at the quote, a bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because her trust is not in the branch, but in her own wings. That is what it should be with you. You may be in any line. Try to excel and reach to the top in that line. A penguin can never be a giraffe, so try to be the best penguin you can be. Excellence should be the key word. That's the message which I want to give you. Then one more thing which can be a big game changer for you is the self-discipline. Self-discipline, begins with the mastery over your thoughts. If you can control what you think, you can control anything you do. So please remember, there is nothing in this world that can trouble you more than your own thoughts. The heaviest burden that we carry are the thoughts in our head. So cages are not made of iron, they are made of thoughts. And there is a report that an average person thinks about 70,000 thoughts a day. So please practice self-control. If you can learn self-control, you can master anything. It's very difficult to do it initially, but with practice you can learn, and it will change your life. Just watch this.
How heavy is this glass of water? Melissa, would you care to answer?
8 ounces,
12 ounces?
16 ounces.
The absolute weight of the glass doesn't matter. It depends on how long I hold on to it. If I hold it for a minute, nothing happens. If I hold it for an hour, my arm will begin to ache. If I hold it all day long, my arm will feel numb and paralyzed. Well, the weight of the glass hasn't changed, but the longer I hold on to it, the heavier it becomes. The stresses and the worries of life are like this glass of water. If you think about them for a little while, there's no problem. Think about it for a little bit longer, it begins to hurt. You think about them all day long, and you'll feel paralyzed, incapable of doing anything. Always remember, put the glass down.
So I think it's clear. And then, work hard sensibly. I know many of you are very hardworking, but in respect of working hard, direction is more important than speed. Choose your direction very, very carefully. Otherwise, it will be all a wastage of time. If one plan doesn't work, change the plan, but never change the goal. This is something you have to keep it in mind. And then, many of us are not able to make much in our life because we start living in a comfort zone. Please remember, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. It's only after you have stepped out of your comfort zone that you begin to change, grow, and transform. So come out of the comfort zone. Then be positive and honest in life. I have always positive thinking. You don't need to proclaim to the world, nobody bothers. But internally you should feel, yes, positive thinking. Positive thinkers will have a solution for every problem. Negative thinkers will have a problem for every solution. So stay positive. And if you happen to be in the company of negative people, the less you respond to the negative people, the more peaceful your life will become. A negative mind will never give you a positive life. Please remember it. Right attitude never takes you to the wrong direction. So keep this in mind. Then, one more thing which I also learned quite late, that is the overcoming the fear of failure. Many of us don't do certain things because, they are afraid that they may fail. So please overcome the fear of failure. जब तक तुम डरते रहोगे, तुम्हारी जिंदगी के फैसले कोई और लेता रहेगा. Overcome the fear. Failures can be the pillars of success depending on how you take them. Your attitude towards failure determines your altitude after failure. So have the right attitude. One more thing is, you should stop worrying and start living. Worry is a misuse of your imagination. We sometimes suffer more in imagination than in reality. And it's very rightly said that one day you will look back and realize that you worried too much about things that don't really matter. But by that time would have gone. You can't undo the things. So stop worrying and start living. These are some of the fundamental facts you should know about worry. Read them very carefully. Don't stew about the futures. Just live each day until bedtime. Ask yourself, what is the worst that can possibly happen if I can't solve my problem? Then prepare yourself mentally to accept the worst, if necessary. And then calmly try to improve upon the worst, which you have already mentally agreed to accept. Things will start changing. This is how you can stop worrying and start living. And then in life, learn also to say no and choose your words carefully. Learn the art of saying no in life. Don't lie, don't make excuses, don't over-explain yourself. Just simply decline. That's all. You can be a good person with a kind heart and still say no. You don't have to be only bad person for saying no. No, not at all. And one thing more, I noticed when came to the top position, before you speak, let your words pass through 3 gates. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If the answer in each case is yes, only then you should speak. Otherwise, remain silent. Please remember, words are free, no doubt, but it is how you use them that may cost you. And one more quality which can be a very big asset to you, and that is, have empathy. Empathy is one of the most important interpersonal skills. It helps you to connect with another person. Empathy means seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. It's something you put yourself into another's shoes. And it's not sympathy, it is empathy. You have to be empathetic in life. And watch this. This can be very important for you. Just watch this.
I recently came across this image and story and had to share it with you. The man in this picture doesn't know that there is a snake underneath. The woman doesn't know that there is a stone crushing the man. The woman thinks, I am going to fall and I can't climb because the snake is going to bite me. Why can't he use a little more strength and pull me up? The man thinks, I am in so much pain, yet I'm still pulling you as much as I can. Why doesn't she try and climb a little harder? The moral is, you can never see the pressure the other person is under, and the other person can't see the pain you're in. This is life. Whether it's with work, family, feelings, or friends, we should try to understand each other a little more. Try to see the situation from the other person's point of view. Put yourself in their shoes. Learn to think differently. Be more open to other perspectives and opinions. A little kindness and patience goes a long way. Everyone we meet is fighting their own battle. Some you will never hear about. You may wish other people would be more understanding and compassionate and helpful to you. So be all those things for other people. Lori Deschênes once gave some priceless advice. She said, practice the pause. Pause before assuming. Pause before accusing. And pause whenever you're about to react harshly. You might avoid saying things you'll later regret. Be kind to each other.
So I think the message is loud and clear. And please remember, when you see yourself in others, it is impossible to hurt anyone else. And then, IQ and EQ also have a very important role. We always used to think that IQ is very important. But now the research shows that IQ can help you to be successful to the extent of 20% in life. The rest of 80% success depends on your EQ, emotional quotient. Emotional intelligence basically would mean perceiving emotions, understanding emotions, using emotions, and managing emotions. If a person has a very high EQ, he will be far more successful in life. That's now it has been proved. IQ is visible. It's like an iceberg again, whereas EQ is hidden. Then, control anger. Anger is a normal emotion. Never say mean words out of anger, because your anger will pass, but your mean words can scare a person for life. So use kind words or be silent. Never reply when you are angry. Never make a promise when you are happy. And never make a decision when you are sad. In all the three cases, you may have to repent later on. And one thing you should always remember, beneath anger, there always lies the fear. So that is a psychological thing. You have to keep it in mind. And one more, avoid arrogance. There is a difference between confidence and arrogance. Both look similar, but they stem from two different sources. Confidence comes from self-belief, about which I talked to you earlier, whereas arrogance comes from ego. So don't let any success go into your head as much that you become arrogant. Don't let that happen. There is a famous quote, कभी किसी चीज का घमंड आ जाए तो शमशान का एक चक्कर लगा आना, तुमसे बेहतरीन लोग वहां राख बने पड़े हैं. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. So keep this reality of life always in mind. Don't procrastinate things in life. You don't know how much time you are left with. One day you will wake up and there won't be any more time to do the things you have always wanted to do. Do it now. Don't postpone them. And then, in life, you also need to win people. These are the ways to make people like you and how to win people. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Give honest and sincere appreciation. Show respect for other person's opinions. This is very important. Become genuinely interested in other people. Be a good listener. Never say you are wrong. Avoid it. Even if you have to call to other person's mistake, do it indirectly. And the best way to get along with the people is remove expectations from people, and you will remove their power to hurt your feelings. This is very important. And one more thing, never underestimate yourself. Have a very high opinion of yourself. Look at this. Having a low opinion of yourself is not modesty, it is self-destruction. Holding your uniqueness in high regard is not egotism. It's a necessary precondition to happiness and success. So please have a high opinion of yourself, as you can see in this picture. And the factors which contribute to the well-being are all these major factors: fulfillment at work, work-life balance, financial security, work environment, mental and physical health, and interpersonal relationship. And whatsoever I have told you, they all will help you here. And this slide I made when I found out the habits of the most successful people in the world. These are the habits: strategic planning and deliverance, laser sharp focus and determination, risk-taking ability. They are very courageous people. Then health and fitness, because the body is the place where you have to live. And then hard work and consistency, never give up attitude. So these are 5 very important habits of successful people. And please remember, success is a product of daily habits, not of random activities. A meaningful life is not being rich, being popular, being highly educated, or being perfect. No. It is about being real, being humble, being able to share ourselves and touch the lives of others. It's only then that we could have a full, happy, and contented life. So try to lead a meaningful life. You get only one life. But if you manage it well, I think one is more than enough. So lastly, I come to the fact, challenge yourself. At the end of the day, your biggest competition is you. You must have noticed. Everything depends on you. You should not become the slave of your mind. You should try to become the master of your mind. So that's the real competition. You don't have the problem. You are the problem. Your mindset is the problem. It is the mindset which separates the best from the rest. So you have to win over yourself. स्वर्ग भी तू है, नरक भी तू है. इन दोनों का फर्क भी तू है. And please remember, it's never too late to be what you might have been. It's just a question of mind. You change attitude, mentally prepare, have a bulldog determination and willpower, and the world will be at your feet. So this is the journey to well-being. Education, formal, informal, and non-formal, I told you. Learning, knowledge, skills, values, attitude, personality. It leads to holistic development, various personality traits I told, and they help in your well-being. That's basically what I wanted to say. Nothing can stop you once you have decided to grow. And there is a very famous quote: a ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. So humans are not designed to be happy in status quo. So please remain dissatisfied so that you can get better and better. Challenges are what keep us fresh. This is a good principle you should have both at work and in life. It will change your life. It will change your life. You may read, you may study at much. That will not have that much impact as all these aspects taken together. we neglect one of the aspects and then we suffer in life. We suffer in our human relations, in our personal relationships. Don't take every challenge as a problem, take every problem as a challenge. Thanks a lot. This was my brief presentation. This is my email ID. You may write your comments. This is my cell number. You can write directly on WhatsApp to me. But I want to give one message to all of you. We are all teachers, you know. There is a book written by Todd Henry called Die Empty. Once people asked Todd Henry, what prompted you to write this book? What is the motivation behind the book? He said that he was attending a business meeting where the director asked, where is the richest land in the world? One of the audience answered, oil-rich Gulf states. Others said, diamond mines in Africa. Then the director said, no, it is the cemetery, it is the burial ground, which is the richest land in the world. Because millions of people have died and they carried many valuable ideas that could not come to light, nor they could benefit others. They remain buried in the cemetery. So from here he got the idea and wrote the book, Die Empty. The message is, live full, die empty. Don't die old, die empty. That's the goal of life. Go to the cemetery and disappoint the graveyard. Please remember, no one has ever become poor by giving. So that's the message. Thank you very much. Your feedback is welcome once again, and all the best.
Thank you, sir, for your inspirational lecture we had today. And it is always a pleasure having you on the board and getting some knowledgeable thoughts of yours and your experience of your journey. And I guess the participants have 100% learned something from your valuable speech. It was always a pleasure having you, sir. And thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The audience have any comments or anything to ask or to discuss? They are welcome.
Any other participants wishes to ask anything from sir, they can directly unmute themselves and ask.
Sure.
So we are getting so much of reviews of your lecture on the chat box.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, these lectures do much more good to you than our other traditional lectures. No doubt they are important, but such talks are generally missing in our system.
Exactly, sir.
And, you know, people need to be motivated. They need to be told the realities of life.
True, sir. Because
change their course of life. That's what I feel.
Exactly, sir. Because the profession we are in, that basically needs a lot of encouragement.
Yes. And, you know, it is very rightly said that realization comes to everybody in one's life. But generally, by the time realization comes, it's too late. So you can't do anything at that stage. So it's better that such talks are given to young people. Even to students, such lectures should be there. But even there should be a focus of personality development to the students. They should be told while in school even, so that they are able to mold their life, their career, their personal lives and everything. It is the need of the day, as someone has very rightly pointed out. Because, you know, these aspects are missing. We focus more on study, and it is then one-sided development. And that lopsided development leads us nowhere. Skills are missing, personality is missing, only knowledge is there. No, we are not here only to learn and learn, that's all. We have to lead, as I said in my talk, meaningful life. The art of living should also be there. That's what I feel.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving such a valuable session to us. And it is always our pleasure.
Gaurav, I was little reluctant to give this talk because I thought that it may not fit into the framework of academic research writing. But then I thought academic research writing is okay, just a very, very small thing, you know.
Exactly.
If you
So
have
it's
all these
always,
things,
so
academic
it's always
research.
good to have something outside the topic, because everybody on all the 7 days we are talking about research writing and good skills of writing. So it's always our opportunity to having you on the board and having something new about your experience and talking to you with various aspects of like I have attended almost so many lectures of yours. So it is always something different. We all get to know from your experience, your way of life, and you have been like giving us a way to how to live a good life in this profession we are in.
I have been fortunate to work with top people of the world, Nobel laureates, and I have very closely worked with them, and I have seen their life, what their mindset is. And therefore, you know, I wanted to share my experiences with all of you, because we don't get much opportunities to meet such people. Therefore, I thought, let me share in a capsule form what all you should try to become like. Of course, ultimately everybody realizes it, but by that time you won't have time to do anything.
True, sir.
कहते हैं ना कि एक हिंदी में कहावत है, जिंदगी छोटी नहीं होती, लोग जीना ही देरी से शुरू करते हैं, जब तक रास्ते समझ में आते हैं तब तक लौटने का वक्त हो जाता है.
Yes, I totally agreed on this. Totally agreed on this.
So that is what it happens most of the time. फिर हम क्या करते हैं कि हम अपने बच्चों को बताते हैं, तो हमारे बच्चे भी वो सोचते हैं कि पता नहीं इनका, हमारे पेरेंट्स का कोई इंटरेस्ट है कि ये हमें बता रहे हैं, वो भी नहीं कहना मानते, वो भी जब तक रियलाइज करते हैं टाइम निकल चुका हो.
जी सर.
यही साइकिल एक चल रहा है कि बहुत कम लोग टाइमली एक्शन ले पाते हैं. So that is why I said that I felt, and somebody very rightly said, it is the need of time. Who is this lady? Suchita Khotke. I just read a message.
Yeah. So we have a lot of participants from Maharashtra this time.
Pardon?
We have a lot of participants from Maharashtra this time because the collaboration is with HSNC Board's KC Law College, which is situated in Mumbai. So there is one question. Mr. Abdul Salam Khan wants to say something.
Ask him to unmute and speak. Come on,
Yes,
video.
Dr. Khan, you can unmute yourself and please.
Yeah, good evening.
You should become courteous. You can't even, at least you can talk.
Good evening, sir.
Where are you?
Yeah, good evening, sir. Myself, Dr. Abdul Salam, sir. Actually, I met in 2019.
2019 में क्या?
2019 में आपसे मुलाकात हुआ था, जहांगीर में मेरी एग्जीबिशन थी for regarding interview. I really impressed at that time. So मुझे बस कांग्रेस कहना था सर, मैंने कम से कम DAD TLC के 11 से ज्यादा FDP कंप्लीट किया only because of you sir. And वो कहते हैं ना लव, इससे पहले मेरे एक एक्स बॉस डॉक्टर हमीदुल्लाह भट्ट साहब से अच्छी तरीके से ताल्लुकात थी, उसके बाद अगर किसी के लफ्जों से मोहब्बत हुआ तो वो आप हैं सर.
नहीं, that is so nice of you. Thank you कि 2019 से आज 3 साल हो गए, तो आपको याद है, यही एक बहुत अच्छी बात है. और so nice of you to have remembered us and being a part of our GAD TLC program. So nice of you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Abdul. Thank you. Which subject do you teach?
Yeah, sir, right now I am at Fine Art MIT main campus, sir.
Okay.
Earlier I APJ associate with the APJ Satya University, sir. Hope so you just remember.
नहीं, कई बार याद नहीं रहता क्योंकि इतना हमारी लाइफ बिजी रहती है. शाम तक तो कभी यहाँ कभी वहाँ कभी इंडिया में कभी बाहर, तो कई बार एक्सक्यूज don't take it otherwise.
Your motivation and the consistency and the level of delivery the lecture, wonderful sir.
Nice. So nice of you. Thank you. Thank you. Because it also motivates us also that we are on the right track.
Yes,
it's
sir.
Mutually, it's a mutually. So because the biggest challenge while developing such lectures is thought process, how you should start. For example, this lecture had about 150 slides. Now, how you start, how you link the things, how you make it interesting. So that's a thought process. So that is also a way of communication. तो आपको कैसे communicate कर रहा हूँ, present करना है, क्या facts होना चाहिए, ये भी एक हर एक चीज हम सीखते हैं. तो anyway, I am happy that you liked it. So anybody else for comments, suggestions, anything? Who is this?
Sir, good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. We are really thankful to you. Myself, Dr. Kiran Sharma from KC Law College.
Okay.
Unfortunately, sir, I don't know why video is like I'm unable to on. Sir, it was truly amazing. And I hope, sir, all the participants are really motivated to do research.
हाँ, देखिए एक चीज ध्यान रखिए, किसी भी लाइन में जाओ, go to the top, reach to the top. Every line needs top people. आप अगर लॉ में हैं तो लॉ में टॉप पे चले जाइए, साइंस में है, केमिस्ट्री में है, फिजिक्स में है, टॉप पे पहुंचिए. टॉप में भी टीचिंग में है तो एक्सीलेंट टीचर बनिए, रिसर्च में है तो एक्सीलेंट रिसर्चर भी. मेडियोक्रिटी सर्वाइव नहीं कर पाएगी प्रेजेंट डे वर्ल्ड में. So you should try to excel. That's what I want to say.
No, sir, but you said that your talk may be out of this scope, but we find, sir, it is very much under the scope of our, topic only. Because for taking any kind of the research, a lot of motivation is required. And that is done by you, sir, today.
No, you are right. You have kindly.
We are really thankful to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, sir, with your permission, can we officially close this session for today?
Sure, please, sure.
Thank you so much.
And hope to see you in some other programs again, and all the best.
Yes, sir.
Success of
My
this.
pleasure to see you again, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and all the best. Thank you, Gaurav, to you also.
Thank you.
You have always been taking a lot of pains, I know, and I think such programs hope their success will get extended to you.
Thank you, sir.